What's up, guys? It's your boy Goblins, and today we're talking about that Pyromancy build that I've got going on. You guys just saw my recent Pyromancy video. I had a lot of requests, of course, to explain it. I've had a lot of comments and questions as to why I do things the way I do while I'm using my build in PvP and all that good stuff. So I'm here to answer a couple questions, and we're gonna go over my Pyromancy build and why I use certain things when I'm running Pure Pyromancy in PvP. So just to give you guys a little bit of backstory as well, I've been playing a Pyromancer since Dark Souls 1 days. I've loved Pyromancy ever since, and it's because once upon a time, the world record holder for Dark Souls 1 was just a Pure Pyromancer, and that's how they used to speedrun the game. Is they would burn through it, they'd buy up all the Pyromancies, and they'd just be tossing fireballs at literally everything in the game. And ever since then, I was inspired to play a Pyromancer. That was the only reason I could actually get through the game originally, and that's what encouraged me to beat Dark Souls 1 officially back in the day. So that was really cool for me, and I just wanted to share that with you guys too. Like, that was a huge part of everything Dark Souls that I put together, and the fact that that dude beat the game as a Pyromancer, I just fell in love as soon as I tried it myself. As you guys can see, I have 15 Vigor, 40 Attunement, 40 Endurance, 10 Vitality, 12 Strength, 15 Dexterity, 40 Faith and Intelligence, and 7 Luck. I started as the Pyromancer class because it does have 7 Luck. It is like one of the best base classes you can start as, because generally, early game, you don't really need Luck that much. Unless you're, of course, making a bleed / poison build of some sort, but you're not. You're making a Pyromancer build. So luck, you don't need it. And, of course, you can always change it later if you're, farming Covenant items and stuff like that. But for right now, like I said, you just don't need it. Now, of course, my Faith and Intelligence are at 40 because that is the soft cap for Intelligence and Faith. And really, that is all you need for Pyromancy. If you go any further, it doesn't really make any sense. It starts to only up things by a couple points here and there. You could go straight to 99 int and faith, and you'll notice that it really doesn't make a huge difference once you hit 40. Like, that's pretty much the cap. Everything kind of gets buffed off of all your items and gear, which we'll get into shortly here. Strength, obviously at 12, because you're not really going to be punching things or doing things with weapons unless you're making a hybrid build, and that's cool if you are, but this is about Pure Pyromancy. So, once again, interpret this guide however you guys would like. I honestly do not mind. And like I personally use the Thrall axe as well as my dark hand when I'm in PvP if someone's invading me or something like that, or just kind of casually running through the game. So, but for the most part, I am running Pure Pyromancy. If I need the help and backup, I run a Chaos Thrall axe, like I said, or a dark hand. Once again, mostly Pyromancy. Pure Pyromancy build, okay? It's for real. My Dexterity's at 15. I'm probably going to take it to 20. You guys will probably also want to take it to 20. I saw this great video showing that the Sage's Ring plus 20 Dexterity gives you the equivalent to 99 Dexterity, because the Sage's Ring ups your virtual Dexterity by giving you that extra cast time. Otherwise, it doesn't give you any other Dexterity bonuses, except just for cast time, which is really cool. Having the Sage's Ring is like an absolute must-have. It saves you so many levels in Dexterity. If you rock the Sage's Ring, then you don't need your Dexterity very high. You need it like 15 to 20, and generally 20 is the meta for casting. But if you don't want to rock the Sage's Ring, that's totally cool, but just know that you're going to be dropping like 40 points into Dexterity. So if you're making a Dex hybrid Pyromancer build of some sort, using katanas and whatnot, whatever the soft cap is for Dex is probably a pretty decent build. And maybe even then I'd recommend it, but unless you're taking your Dexterity to 40, you don't want to do that as a caster, because you do have Sage's Ring. It is a ring slot, but it is worth your time. Now, of course, I've got Vitality, Endurance, and Vigor all at low points right now. You guys can take that as far as you guys want. If you want to feel comfortable with your health and endurance and stamina, all that stuff, that's totally cool. It all depends on how much you want to get hit. Once again, great for hybrid builds if you plan on doing that kind of stuff. But for me, the idea is I have a low equip load. I keep it super low. I can roll farther. I've always told people in PvP, like, if I even get tickled the slightest bit in PvP, I'm probably gonna die. I'm probably gonna die, straight up. But that is the risk of being a glass cannon as a Pure Pyromancer in PvP. It really is. Really, it just comes down to learning how to avoid things and dodge things and not get hit by things. It's not hard. Not that hard. And the last stat is my attunement's at 40, and that's because I do like having a variety of spells, and I like having that big FP bar. Having that big FP bar, it means quite a bit. That means I have to take less Ashen Estus while I'm in duels and whatnot, and just fighting general PvE stuff. Honestly, it's great. And you just can't have enough variety of spells in PvP, I find. If you always have something new to throw at your opponent, they'll never know what's coming. It always kind of mixes things up and makes things interesting, and it's definitely worth your time. Now I'm going to get into my gear here a little bit, guys. As you guys can see, my weight ratio is 30%. It's because I like those long distance rolls. It doesn't make a huge difference for me. It does make a huge difference as far as getting out of combat. and you will notice it if you do have a lighter equip load. Once again though, play however you want. I don't care. Like, fat roll if you like it. Don't even roll if you don't like to roll. You know, like, whatever works for you guys. Dark Souls is all about playing the way you guys want to play it, and that's exactly what I'm showcasing here. So with the gear here, as you can see, I have 2 Pyromancy Flames, both at +10. And another thing to mention as far as the gear goes is a lot of you guys have been asking me about how to get 2 Pyromancy gloves. You either do this by killing Cornix, the Pyromancy master, seller, trainer, whatever you want to call him, or just trading it online. So my roommate gave me his Pyromancy glove because he's never going to use it ever, so he just gave me his second one, and henceforth I have 2 pyro hands, and that's how I rock it. So you guys can do the same thing by trading with someone to get a second Pyromancy glove, or you can just kill Cornix. It's completely up to you. Or just wait till New Game Plus, because in New Game Plus he does give you another one. Once again, got my Chaos Thrall Axe +10 for those tough PvE moments, as well as any type of invading PvP. Generally, you don't get honor and invasion PvP. If someone's invading you, they're going to come right for you. If you're dueling someone, I can throw this away, I can unequip it, and not have to worry about them fucking with my shit. But this is for those backup situations where things just aren't going so well. I like to, once again, run everything generally like this with no weapon whatsoever, because your fists do things that that actually do help in combat. But that Chaos Thrall Axe has definitely helped my playthrough as far as New Game Plus goes, and all that stuff. Now, the only reason I'm using a Dark Hand is because the Grass Crest Shield used to regen a lot better stamina back in Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2. Nowadays, it doesn't. So there was no point for me keeping that on. I just decided, you know what, like, whatever. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it Fashion Souls. And having the Dark Hand really keeps up that Fashion Souls while giving me some sort of defense. Fighting the final boss, for example, he'll hit me and I have my shield up with my Dark Hand. And it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. And if you ever get anyone with that Life Drain effect, like, it's really cool. And then you can kind of follow up with some Pyro Glove punches and, you know, look like some boss ass Dark Hand Pyromancy Punch you got, yeah! And that scales really well, of course, with my faith and intelligence, so why not? Why not? If I land those life hits, like, that's pretty sweet. Now, of course, the reason I picked the Chaos Thrall Axe, just to kind of finish off on that, is because it does also be scaling with intelligence and faith, which is awesome. I think most things that are Chaos do, but not everything does. Some things scale, like C scaling. Chaos Thrall Axe is that B scaling, which is why I really like it. And it's short range, it's really quick, and feels really smooth. Now, of course, the actual equipment that I'm wearing is Sellsword Helm, Robe of Prayer, Carla's Gloves, and Conjurator Boots. I just like to look like a homeless Pyromancer. Just trying to make it in the world, you know? Has to do with the aesthetic of being a Pyromancer. I just like it a lot. I've tried multiple combinations, and I think this is like the one I've landed on for Fashion Souls. Goes good with the double Pyromancer. Boom, boom. And now to talk about rings, which are very, very important, which is the Great Swamp Ring, Witch's Ring, Sage's Ring, and Dark... Oh, no. Don't use that one. Fire Clutch Ring. There, that's the one you want. So the Great Swamp Ring you get right off the bat for playing a Pyromancer. I'm actually not sure of the locations of that ring in particular. If you're looking for it, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to post videos to getting the rings, as well as all the Pyromancy spells and all that stuff in the description for you guys. Makes it a lot easier. People have already done great videos and that stuff. I don't need to go ahead and go replicate it and flood YouTube with more stuff that is the exact same that someone else has already posted. So I'm just going to leave links to other people's videos and, you know, give them some credit for finding all the Pyromancies and rings and all that. But anyways, this will boost your Pyromancies, really important. I believe there's a Great Swamp Ring +1, which you'll get in New Game Plus. Same with the Witch's Ring, which you'll get a +1 of at some point, which will really increase your damage during your New Game Plus. So, of course, your stats cap out at a certain point. You get that soft cap, but the rings are what make you continue on as far as like scaling and everything goes, similar to how like a quality build would be able to still scale in New Game Plus and whatnot. So now, I leave the Fire Clutch Ring up to your discretion, really. The Fire Clutch Ring is fantastic because it increases your fire attack, but compromises damage absorption. This ring gives you, I'm going to say, about 100 to 200 points extra for all your Pyromancies. So if you really want to be nuking people, you want to have this ring equipped. But if you want to switch it up with your build and whatnot, you can switch this up however you'd like. So sometimes they'll run the extra Attunement Ring and all that stuff. You can run the Darkmoon Ring, so you can get double attunement slots with that ring. Karthus Milk Ring I've seen people run before. You don't absolutely have to run Fire Clutch Ring if you don't want to, but it is recommended. So just to give you guys a general idea, here's a Fireball with the Fire Clutch Ring. So I'm just going to take this guy really quick with just basic Fireballs, and I'm doing 413. Now I'm going to take off the ring, and now we're doing 359, as you guys can see here. So it will make a difference, and it has a similar effect on almost all Pyromancies. So once again, it's up to you guys if you want to wear that Fire Clutch Ring or not. It will maximize your damage, but it'll make you get hit harder. That is completely up to you. Not every Sorcerer build has to be the exact same as what I'm trying to say. and you'll see that a lot in the Dark Souls community, which is unfortunate, but honestly, us as casters, what can you do? So now we're going to talk a little bit about the spells, the first being the OG Fireball. So the Fireball is really fast, it's great for multi-purpose battle, of course. You can just toss it at enemies, dodge things like this dude, and just keep tossing them like it's nobody's business. With 20 dex cast time, as well as that virtual casting time of the Sage's Ring, it is a really, really healthy spell to have. Quite fast, once again, at throwing things, and of course, in PvP, it's great for applying the pressure. Then you've got your Fire Orb, which is just a larger fireball, essentially. It hits harder, it's more explosive, has more of like an AoE effect on its fireball. It's just a bigger version of a fireball, slightly slower though, so if you want to replace it with the fireball, you can, or vice versa. It just is a bigger hit radius and has a bigger fireball. Now here's the Bursting Fireball, which is the shotgun of Pyromancy. As you guys can see, you just toss out all these little fires and such at people. Great for PvE, crowd control, great for PvP is for crowd control as well. I like to call it the alternative to Great Combustion if you're not running Great Combustion by chance, just because it has that cone of effect essentially. Now the Great Chaos Fire Orb is probably going to be your main weapon in your utility belt. It leaves lava right on the floor, also hits enemies really hard. As you guys can see, I hit for 904 on this dude. And once again, the lava trail behind leaves any enemy within your area of effect getting hit by that lava on the ground there. So that's awesome as well. So Great Chaos Fire Orb I like to call the alternative to Chaos Bed Vestiges. Up to you if you guys want to use that or not. But you really have to be using one or the other to be a successful Pure Pyromancer. Which then leads me to Chaos Bed Vestiges. This is my favorite fireball right here. It's the largest fireball. It's got this huge trail of area of effect. So if you're not hitting people with the fireball itself, you're hitting everything around it as well. It's very, very fast, just like how the Forbidden Sun was in Dark Souls 2. But of course, it's slower than that. But this is going to be your main fireball if you're not running Great Chaos Fire Orb, for sure. Keep in mind, both spells do take up 2 attunement slots, so it is very important to be picking one or the other or running higher attunement on your character. Now, Fire Surge is the alternative to Fire Whip. As you guys can see, it's got some heavy, heavy stagger effects. You just sit there and you blow your enemies away. It does drain your FP quite quick, so when you have a lower FP bar at lower levels, kind of harder to use, but, you know, at higher levels, it's a fantastic spell. Has, once again, great stagger effects in comparison to Fire Whip. Definitely recommend it if you're not running Fire Whip. Which brings me to Fire Whip, which feels like my essential spell for Pyromancy in PvP and PvE in Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. This spell in itself is great. It has a fantastic tracking. If you're using it in PvP, it's definitely helpful before this guy kills me. But it has really good tracking and stagger. When you hit enemies with this, it does stagger them. It's a great utility to be having in your Pyromancy list when you're running PvP and all that stuff. Highly, highly recommended. Similar to Fire Surge, but has much better tracking. It literally tracks everything within a 180-degree radius. It's fantastic. Now, Firestorm is highly conditional. You'll probably only really use the spell ever when you're invading and everything. This is a very, very conditional spell. As you guys can see, I'm about to get dicked because of it. Has a crazy load time on it. Hits everything within that radius if it does hit anything. So once it does hit things, I'm just gonna punch him because fuck this guy. It actually does deal a fair amount of damage, but it is very, very conditional because of its large hit time. Really good for PvP if you're facing against multiple phantoms, if you're invading, or if you're getting invaded. It keeps them at bay with all the enemies around and everything, as long as you do have enemies around. But once again, a very conditional Pyromancy. And the same rule applies to Chaos Storm, but Chaos Storm is slightly more effective because it does leave those lava trails. So as enemies come and get you, they're going to hit by the lava. It also hits a lot harder as well. So if you're going to be running any Storm at all, you might as well be running the double attunement slot Chaos Storm. I know it takes up 2 attunement slots, but it'll be a lot more effective than Firestorm. Next up is Sacred Flame, which is my newfound favorite thing in Dark Souls 3. Has 180-degree tracking, similar to Fire Whip, and it hits so hard, it's ridiculous, and it looks so cool. It is everything Fashion Souls you ever want it to be. And like, just look at that. It just hit for 14k. That same thing applies to PvP players. When you hit this thing, it's incredible, it feels good, and it also tracks for 180 degrees. This is a must-have in Pyromancy builds for PvP. In PvE, it's lots of fun as well, because even if you don't hit the person with it, you're going to at least do some damage when you do land it. Sacred Flame will be your ultimate punish tool, destruction tool, whatever kind of tool you want it to be. And it follows up well with Boulder Heave and Fire Whip or any of those other staggering, you know, type attacks. And like I said, it just feels good. It just feels good when you hit people. Oh, look at that. Look at that. How could you not? Hey, what's up? What's up? Oh, shit. It is like just the one of the greatest things ever. Next up, we have Great Combustion, which is an absolute classic from the Dark Souls series. Still hits very hard, but unfortunately has a smaller range compared to Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2. So there is a couple alternatives that you could probably take that are better than Great Combustion. It still hits very hard. Probably, once again, a preferred Pyromancy. Once again, if you're not running Bursting Fireball, you're going to be wanting to run Great Combustion. Either or, honestly, are very effective close range and are great to have in your utility belt for a Pyromancy. Profane Flame is the new Flame Swathe of Dark Souls 3. Unfortunately, it's not as effective as Flame Swathe as it was in Dark Souls 2, but it still hits really hard, causes enemies to stagger, throws them back, and all that stuff, which is really great as well. In PvP, Profane Flame is one of my favorite things to free aim. If you free aim it right at your feet here and an enemy approaches, it'll hit them from below, and it's going to hit them back, which is awesome. It's a great stagger utility. Not so much really that great for actually hitting enemies with because it's very avoidable nowadays. Flame Swathe was a little bit faster and had a little bit larger of a blast radius from Dark Souls 2. Profane Flame, I would probably still keep this in my utility belt because I love it so much. It's got that little bit of nostalgia for me as well from Dark Souls 2. And once again, it does still hit very hard, but it is a little conditional now versus what it used to be in Dark Souls 2. So once again, this is going to be a great utility to aim at your feet when enemies are actually approaching you. Probably can't get it off on this guy, but I can. Yes, so there you go. So similar to what just happened there. Similar effects on PvP of builds and whatnot. You throw it at your feet and it's going to hit enemies as they approach. Poison Mist, Toxic Mist, and Acid Surge aren't really too effective in PvE, but in PvP they're fantastic. These clouds of things, you can toss at enemies and hopefully it'll poison them or break their armor or whatever else, and you can just keep on tossing it at them, and it also really is good for applying pressure. So this dude, of course, is poisoned now, but it takes just too long to really get that in. I don't know. Once again, very conditional. It's up to you guys if you want to use it or not. Could be very effective in PvE scenarios similar to this, just to kind of whittle enemies down and whatnot. But it is purely conditional. It's a lot better in PvP, I will say that much. So goes for all the mists and the surges and all that stuff. It's only as effective as you're gonna have to make it really in PvP, which is quite unfortunate, but it does happen. So now Power Within and Karthus Beacon you'll probably only use so often. They don't really do too much for a Pure Pyromancer. It only works so well doing this kind of stuff. Consecutive hits if you, of course, have a hybrid build of some sort for Karthus Beacon, and Power Within for increasing your attack power. Doing damage to yourself, once again, probably only recommended for hybrid builds. But that is completely, once again, up to how your playstyle and how you like to play as a Pyromancer, or if you're playing a hybrid build, whatever works. So, not really effective in this build for Pure Pyromancy, but if you're doing a hybrid build, probably a lot more effective than that. Now, same applies to Karthus Flame Arc. You probably won't ever really use it for anything, but it does help to enhance your elementals. If, of course, you're playing a hybrid build of some sort, it definitely helps hit people with your weapons a little bit harder if they're not enhanced in some sort of way already. Otherwise, once again, as a Pure Pyromancer, you'll probably never use it. Now, Warmth is another really good Pyromancy, of course. Unfortunately, it heals everything around you that is within this bubble. As you guys can see, it is healing this enemy here. So if you're using Warmth, you're probably going to be running it in PvP when you're invading and whatnot. You're going to run around corners and stuff like that and actually heal yourself versus using an Estus Flask. Using Warmth, unfortunately, it does take up that extra Attunement slot, but it is purely, once again, conditional. If you are invading, it's really helpful. You go run around a corner and quickly use it and hope that your enemies don't chase you. Otherwise, that's like the only real time to use it. Or if you're in front of a boss with some phantoms, maybe that's a good time to use it as well. Next up is Report, which is only okay in your world. I think everyone else's world is not that great. It works sometimes. So as you guys can see, some PvE action obviously does not work in PvP, which is something to note as well, but this guy will just aimlessly walk around and be on my team until I decide to kill him. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that with whatever I got in my belt right here. I got a Boulder Heave, so there you go. Good for PvE though, because you can throw it on some enemies, quickly kill them with your Pyromancies, and then walk along and just have a good old day going along in the game playthrough. Boulder Heave is another one I'd like to have in my utility belt at all times playing Dark Souls 3, especially doing PvP and whatnot, because it has heavy stagger ability, and it hits quite hard when effectively used. As you guys can see, I just one-shot that guy, but obviously doesn't have that much health. But regardless, Boulder Heave will stagger your enemies in both PvE and PvP, and it's great to be followed up with something like Fire Whip, or Sacred Flame, or Fire Surge, whatever you want to follow it up with. Boulder Heave is the way to do it. So if you can stagger your opponents using Boulder Heave, it's going to be really effective for you and work in your favor in almost every possible way. just blast them away. That dude just slid across the ground. Because I do remember seeing this comment that was like, why are you using that crappy boulder spell? And it's like, actually, it hits really hard when you stagger enemies, and it is a great utility to be using as a Pyromancer if you get the shot off. So now we're going to talk about the Dark Pyromancies, which you're going to actually want to go and equip the Dark Clutch Ring for. Unlike Fire Clutch Ring, Dark Pyromancies get a lot more benefits from Dark Clutch Ring, especially when it comes to hitting harder and all that stuff. It's gonna make a difference. So first up, we have Black Flame. I like Black Flame over Great Combustion in a lot of scenarios just because it's a variation. You're not using purely fire here. You're using some dark flames as dark spells as well, and Black Flame does that for me. Unfortunately, I can't run both Clutch Rings because that's silly and that would only hurt me in PvP and PvE. But Black Flame is awesome because it does switch it up a bit in case that person does have better fire resist, which is a thing sometimes, believe it or not. People actually up their fire resist sometimes. Not all the time, but it's a thing. Next up, you got Black Fire Orb, which is just a fire orb, but black. Once again, it gets more benefits from Dark Clutch Ring. Hits pretty hard when you're using it, as you guys can see. It's a nice alternative to Fire Orb or Fireball because it does move fairly fast. It is just dark magic, and that's the only difference. It's a nice variation to have when you're fighting against enemies with higher fire resist. And the last one we got to talk about is Black Serpent. So, of course, you slam it into the ground, it goes along the ground, has not the greatest range, it looks like, but can be helpful if you're running that pure Dark Pyromancy build, and it looks pretty cool as well. I have been told that it does scale walls, which I just proved there. As you guys can see, it does go straight up the wall. So let's say you got a dude on a cliff, and he's like, haha, you can't get up here. You just gotta go up to him and be like, haha, actually, I can still hit you with Black Serpent. Thinking about it, if you got a kill with this, that would be crazy. Look at it, it's just going straight up the wall. That'd be pretty sweet, actually. I challenge someone to go get a kill up against a wall against someone using Black Serpent. Yeah. So last one I haven't talked about is Iron Flesh because I want to save it for last. I probably shouldn't be telling you guys about this, but you can quick step with Iron Flesh. It enhances your defense, lets you take hard hits. I'm just gonna like casually get up to this guy using a little bit of FP. It's really effective in PvP. I will only ever use this like an asshole in PvP if I absolutely need to. So you can do that, quick step away. It may or may not work with Hamill's shield as well. You're welcome. To everyone else that doesn't know that, or does know that but not saying anything, I'm sorry. But it is effective against invaders. Believe it or not, Iron Flesh quick step stumps everyone, and when you get hit, it doesn't even affect you. It's awesome. Now, something to note, guys, is that your Pyro Gloves do things if, of course, you don't have any FP for anything. You can go ahead and start punching things, destroying enemies with your gloves. It does Combustion on the left hand, as you can see there, and you can also start punching people, which is great as well. Be super effective as long as you're landing those shots, and if you're not running a weapon of whatsoever, you can use those as finisher moves if you absolutely have to, and it is quite effective. It just comes down to, once again, a matter of dodging things and being able to run from things and properly avoiding things, because you don't have a shield if you're running Dual Pyromancy, and in Pure Pyromancy PvP, you're not going to be running anything except for just Pyromancy. So, once again, Combustion costs very little to cast on the left-hand heavy, and just punching things is quite effective with fully upgraded gloves. And as far as PvP etiquette goes, of course, you're going to want to bow to everyone that you get summoned into, or you can bow to your invader and whatnot if you have summoned them in. Invaders won't give you any honor, for the most part, and generally people that get invaded by reds aren't going to give you any honor as well. It's just like if you're invading someone while they're doing shit in their world, obviously they're going to be pissed, and they're not going to give you a fucking bow. Let's be real. Now, on top of that, you will notice that some people get mad when you use Ashen Estus. I had a guy actually the other day just chug orange juice like it was nobody's business after I dropped an Ashen Estus flask. For anyone that's running PvP, if I'm using an Ashen Estus, that's my only way to fight. I'm just saying. I don't mind if you get mad about it, but I'm probably going to leave if you get mad about it, because that's my only way of fighting. You got like this great sword and a fat ass shield. Like, what the fuck? What do you think's gonna happen? Otherwise, something to mention is that most people don't mind Ashen Estus. Not everyone, it's only the few couple people. But if you notice that someone's getting rowdy about Ashen Estus and you popping it and whatnot, just try not to use it, try and kill them. If they drop orange juice afterwards like it's nobody's business, walk off a cliff, because fuck those guys. If you're getting invaded, there's no rules, you can do whatever you want. But if you're summoning in for a duel or getting summoned for a duel, either or, of course always count by bow rules, and hopefully that person won't mind if you're using Ashen Estus to heal up your FP so you can continue your fight. So I'm pretty sure that's everything I have to cover for my build, guys. If I miss anything, please just drop a comment and I'll hopefully reply to you with whatever questions you have for this. I feel like I got everything in this video. I feel like I covered everything. I've answered a lot of questions that people have been asking me. I really hope that was the case. All in all, to summarize my build, I like running Pure Pyromancy. I have done this since the Dark Souls 1 days, for a very long fucking time. And what I'm trying to say is that not everything has to be a 40-40 quality build of some sort. You can play the game as a caster successfully with other types of ways of playing. All in all though, play Dark Souls 3 the way you guys want to play it. Play Dark Souls the way you guys want to play it. I don't care. This is just the way I want to play it. And for all you struggling casters out there, or for anyone that's making a caster build and is having troubles putting it together, of course for PvP and PvE, I promise you it is completely doable. You just have to learn how to dodge things and move around a little bit, or else you're gonna die from almost anything. But that is, once again, just a different playstyle that I have adapted. So I hope the video wasn't too long for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. With that being said, as I always say, drop a like for your boy Goblins, and I'll be back here doing more Dark Souls content. So take it easy, guys. Have a general good. And if you guys are looking for more guides, more PvP stuff, please let me know, and I will be doing more of that stuff more often, which is super cool as well. So take it easy, have a general good, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out!